Before we dive into this episode, we wanted to take the opportunity to say a heartfelt thank you for being here. Whether you've been with us from the very beginning when we started this podcast in 2019 or you're new, welcome.
We hope you enjoy what you hear, and if you do, please download it, share it with friends, and leave a review. It really helps us get better guests and share the midlife love.
In this week's episode of the Midlife Mentors Podcast, we're joined by two incredible women who have spent years on the front line of love and relationships. Active daters turned true insiders, Julie and Yue. They're the powerhouse duo behind the award-winning Datable podcast and authors of How to Be Dateable, a guide that has helped countless people navigate the wild world of love in the digital age.
Their work has been celebrated by the New York Times, the Huffington Post, Oprah Daily, and so many others. Julie brings her background in human-centered design and deep qualitative research, while Yue draws on her experience as a dating coach, together offering a rare blend of insight, humour and grounded wisdom.
In our conversation, we dive into expectations around dating at midlife, the biggest misconceptions, how apps have reshaped the landscape, and what's coming next, whether the future is even more digital-led or if there's a swing back to real-world connection. And of course, they share some brilliant tips to help you actually enjoy the process. You can find Julie and Yue at datablepodcast.com and on Instagram at Datable Podcast. We hope you enjoy it.
Hi, I'm James Davis.
And I'm Claire Davis.
We're the Midlife Mentors, here to lift the lid on how to achieve health and happiness.
The balanced, no-nonsense way.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Midlife Mentors with me, James.
And me, Claire. We were just having a laugh with our lovely guest that we have got for you today. We were like, normally we do a little catch up at the beginning of our podcast where we talk about what we've been up to. And I was like, but we actually haven't really been up to much. So probably be nice and free.
We actually haven't. We did have your mum and dad came here. So we're living in Ibiza at the moment, as listeners will know, the winter here. And Claire's mum and dad popped over for a few days.
Yeah, that was lovely. Really, really nice. But we ate a lot of food. I mean, I don't drink, but you drank quite a lot of booze. I think you're still recovering. As you get older, it's a lot harder to recover from the massive meals and the lots of booze.
I blame your dad.
My dad is a rascal. My dad is a rascal. If you'd have been at school together, like they bimble off together and they have like little jokes at bars together. They're right little tearaways you are.
We are.
It's very sweet. But they were nice. It was nice to have them here.
And then we've had my birthday.
Your birthday. Then we've had Lola, our fur baby's birthday, which is today.
And I think important to say for my birthday, actually, if you're catching this live, as it were, just for a few days till December the 14th, my book, The Midlife Male Handbook, is going to be, it's on a promo on Kindle on Amazon. So I think it's 99 cents in the US, 75p in the UK, similar pricing globally. So that's your chance to go grab it. So I wanted to make it available for men. So go grab it. If you do grab it, please read it and put it into action so that you get the positive effects from it.
But speaking about
I want to introduce our amazing guests. We're going to be talking all things dating.
Yes, so we've got the lovely Julie and Yue with us today, all the way from the US. So drum roll, this is really exciting. I do love being able to do this and jump online and speak to people all across the world. But we're so excited to speak to these amazing ladies. They have a top dating and relationship podcast called Datable.
That's been running for a decade.
Running. This is amazing. They were like well ahead of the curve with our podcast world. And they've been featured in New York Times and CNN. And they actually also have an awesome book out called How to Be Dateable. Please do check them out on socials as well. We'll give you all those details in the show notes and at the end of this episode. But ladies, welcome. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Thanks, Claire, for that introduction. Thanks for having us.
We are so excited to be back. We're like, we missed you guys because we just recorded with you on our podcast yesterday. It's been one whole day.
We should do it every week.
Every day.
Let's do it. Please.
Hello again. So let's dive in. We're just finding out a little bit about your story, I suppose.
Yeah, so for listeners, like, just tell us about Datable. What inspired you to come up with the podcast? How did you get started, and how did that lead into your amazing book and everything else that you do?
So Julie and I were actually introduced by a matchmaker, which is quite ironic because we're the only match she's ever made.
Not to date, clarify.
A mutual friend who's a matchmaker, and we're literally her only match. But I had just moved to San Francisco, and she's like, "You have to meet my friend Julie. She's so connected in San Francisco. She's been here for a long time, and you really get along with her." So Julie and I met. It was like a love at first sight. We couldn't stop talking about dating. I had just moved to San Francisco from Beijing. I had lived in Beijing for 2 years. And I was a dating coach for almost a decade before that. And I felt like I knew dating. I cracked the code on dating. And I moved to San Francisco and I was like, I know nothing about dating because that city is so progressive and so at the forefront of technology that it completely reshaped what dating looks like. So Julie and I had these really interesting conversations because I was coming in as a fresh blood, and she's like, "Oh, this is dating. This is the new way of dating." And we both didn't know it at the time, but San Francisco was really a few years ahead of the rest of the world. So we were in the future in 2015 of seeing what modern dating would be like. So we thought, let's capture this on audio. At the time, we didn't know it was called a podcast. We were just like, let's record.
That's so fun. Julia, have you got anything to add?
Yeah, I mean, I think like you guys said, San Francisco dating apps were just like so new there. So when people over the pandemic were really starting to catch up and use dating apps, we were like, oh, we've been doing this for years. This is something that's been ingrained in society here. And, both of us, I think we were 30s at the time when we met. Mm-hmm. You were maybe like 34-ish, and I was like 32 because we have a couple years difference, but not huge. And we were like at that cusp of being like, okay, well, we've already exceeded 30, which is like that stereotypical age of like meeting someone. But in major cities, it always increases. 30 is the new 40, all of that. Or 40 is the new 30, all of that. And we like started to be like, okay, we're now at the cusp of starting to feel the pressure a bit. Like we're getting to that point of like, okay, we've had our fun in our 20s, even early 30s. We're looking for something a bit more real. And like, why isn't dating working the way we want it to?
Right.
Yeah. Was that quite a shock to both of you? Getting to that stage, like, how did you feel? I know what it feels like when you said you kind of like instantly fell in love with each other. It's just so amazing when you have that connection. But was it quite a surprise to you that you'd found yourself in that position?
Yes. And I still feel that way today. Yeah. I think back to my 13-year-old self, and she would have never predicted who I'd be as I am today. Mm-hmm. And I guess she would have never thought I would have been in my mid-30s and not married with kids. I just always assume these things just get handed to you. Like you turn 30 and society's like, here's a husband, here's a kid. Have fun. And here I was kind of rediscovering who I was in San Francisco and dating again for the first time. And it just felt so new, yet I felt so behind.
Mm. How about you, Julie? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I actually met so at 31, I met the person that I thought was the one. And I was like, oh, finally, I've been dating all these years. I've been on the apps. I've done all the thing. It's all falling into place. And then quickly that unraveled and it was not the one. And I think it was a hard lesson for me to learn that like someone can be in love with you, but they may not have the capacity for a real relationship and the type of relationship that you want. So that was it was jarring. And it was hard to like even understand and rectify. And I think that actually I was kind of going through it when I met Yue and then started doing this podcast. So it was like I figured out some parts of dating, but then there's this other part that is still such a mystery to me. Like, why isn't it like the story we've been sold? Like you meet the person and happily ever after.
You know what's so weird is I still think about this. I've known Julie for 10 years now, and this person, this who we thought was the one, was a main character in her life, but I've never met him. I've never met him. So from my perspective,
I got shivers then.
Isn't that weird? Like he wasn't the one because he was not at the forefront of like how I knew Julie, but he was also always this background character in her life until she met her now husband.
Yeah. I know. And congratulations.
The actual one, yes.
Julie's just got married at the end of August, which is amazing. Congratulations.
You touched on something there, the way that tech had shifted the dating scene. And I'd love to get your thoughts on how has that changed? I guess we go back, when people said they met in real life, and then we had like the Lonely Hearts things in papers and magazines, and then we kind of had the internet, which was basically like just Lonely Hearts again, but a bit upgraded. But then we got kind of personal digital devices, the apps. How has that changed dating behavior, do you think? What's the impact been?
I mean, I'll start off by saying that I am an app proponent. I believe in the apps. I met my husband on Hinge, and I think apps are a really great way to connect people because you only know who you know in a certain circle. And I even experienced this. I was like, okay, people are starting to pair up. I know all my friends. I know all their friends. You start to run out of options. And apps just opened up like a whole new door of people that you would never be exposed to. And I think we forget that, which is why I'm saying it up top, because it's so easy to like hate on the apps and say they're the worst things ever and all the things. But we're forgetting that they were actually solving a problem that was there because it was hard to meet people in real life. And it wasn't like, going to a bar and getting hammered and meeting someone that way wasn't always like the path to like the best long-term relationship. So I'll start there. That being said, I think the humanity behind apps has been a bit detrimental to dating because, people on the internet, whether it's a dating app, Reddit, X, wherever, like people can just say and do whatever they want and feel like you are disposable. You are not a person yet. You're not talking to other people. So there's this culture that was brought into dating. It felt like I have all the options in the world. All these people are smiling at me. When I go on an app, it's like I'm walking into a bar and everyone there wants to be with me, even though it's not the truth. And I'm like the one that's like on top of the world. And that just sets up like a bad dynamic. And then there's a lot of studies too that, there's like 20% of men, for instance, that are getting 80% of the attention by women. So these dynamics don't lend itself well either because women are, swiping on this 20%, feels like these guys, have all the options. They're not reaching out and responding. But then there's 80% of men that are so frustrated and just like they swipe and swipe and swipe and never get a date. It's just like these dynamics of like a marketplace that became, I think dating just got commoditized by having, this digital imprint. It's like we're looking for a soulmate and looks like we're shopping on Amazon.
Yeah. Everything you just said is like really
resonating.
Really resonates. Yue, what do you think? Have you got something to add to that?
I just equate dating to grocery shopping in the way of how technology has affected us.
Yeah.
Back in the day, you go grocery shopping in your neighborhood, and that's all your choices. And so you start to think, okay, these are what I'm able to eat based on this neighborhood that I live in. And with technology, you start thinking, okay, now I can get food from other neighborhoods or other countries and other cities. Now I'm developing my taste to a point where my taste is refined yet confused. Like, do I like curry? I don't know. I want to go try it. Do I like this sort of food? It looks weird, but I'm going to try it. And that's what dating apps did for us was it opened up our appetite, but it also confused our appetite. Like, I'm not really sure what I'm craving anymore. And also with technology, that instantaneous connection, similar to similar to grocery shopping. Now you can get food in 2 hours. I can order food on Amazon, wherever, and then it shows up in 2 hours. It took away the experience of grocery shopping. It used to be I would take my cart down the aisles and I would look at my options and I would like go by feeling or go by the packaging. Same with dating apps. We're actually taking away the experience of dating. And like to what Julie said, commoditizing, now this person I'm going to just put into my cart and they're going to show up at my door in 2 hours. We are no longer thinking about dating as a fun thing to do or a shared experience. It is just a chore at this point because I just need to feed myself. It's just grocery shopping.
Yes. I see that. I can see how that can feel like really overwhelming and like this big old chore. It's like, oh, I've had my friends there. It's like, oh, I've got to go on the dating app again. I'm like,
Yes.
where's the excitement?
It's a luxury, though, when you think about it, right? Like, what other context would someone devote an hour to meet with you randomly? And like, you get to explore the city and go on to different restaurants. Like, we forget all the magic that's behind dating. And I think that's been a big challenge. And then to like what Yue was saying about this instantaneous effect, we actually call this in our book, we have these traps of modern dating, that we believe that you're not the problem. Like the reason you're falling for them isn't something you're doing wrong, but it's the way culture has created the dating ecosystem that forces you almost to like confine to these traps. So for instance, our first one is like the expectation of love on demand. And this is this feeling that if you show up and there's not instant chemistry, it's a no, because you can go back and get all these other people, when the irony is that people are like, I can't even get dates on the dating apps. Yet there's like this illusion that there's like millions of people available. So like at the smallest ick, we're out.
Yeah. That's kind of where we are now. Where do you see the dating world going? And I'm asking the context because your shopping analogy is actually just because I was actually saw something on the news this morning.
I knew you got excited about something. I could tell.
We know we live in this drive, right, to kind of like more efficient all the time, do things faster. I saw that there's some supermarkets back in England and now introducing like slow lanes where you stop and you chat to the cashier and you have that interaction, because there's so many lonely people. And I wonder, would you think we're going to see a similar kind of play into real world for dating?
Yes, we see that quite a bit. I mean, what you two told us about on our show, these clubs where you can't take your phone in and you're connecting, or these day clubs, we see a lot of that in the US as well. And just, I think on a global level, I see a lot more people wanting to go back to analog in some way, some sort of connection in an analog way. I've had friends who are like, I'm just going to stake out at a coffee shop for the rest of the day just to see what happens, and actually just be patient that maybe I won't meet anybody, but at least I've lived this like slow kind of lifestyle. I think slow burn, slow love are these terms that are coming up right now. We're just like, let's just take a step back, because with the grocery shopping analogy, we spent so much time analyzing the ingredients of this food. We forgot the story behind the food we're getting. Like, I think the beauty of, to me, my relationship to food is the beauty behind the story of that type of food, not just the ingredients. But we're so focused on the ingredients right now.
Yeah. Julie, have you got anything else to add to that?
I think we've seen this shift, like, hookup culture was for a long time, right? Like, I'm not even going to like have a relationship. I could just get my needs met that way. And then we saw how that burnt us out. And then we
how did that go down?
a lot of bad self-esteem. I don't know. And then we shifted to this intentional dating. And that's where I think we've been for the last couple of years, that people are like, okay, I don't want to do something that's not going to yield the long-term results I'm looking for. I'm going to be very intentional. I'm going to make sure right away that they're looking for what I'm looking for. And I don't, I spot all the red flags immediately so I don't get hurt and I don't waste any time. The problem with this approach is that it is not fun at all. You are going on a date review. It feels like you are on an interview, on a date. It's what we were talking about earlier. The magic is gone. So that's where we've been living like the last couple years. And what was really fascinating is that there's been this like dating is a numbers game mentality. And like you think about it when you're like, searching for jobs, right? You have to send out a bunch of resumes and fill out all the job boards because it's a numbers game. And that was in dating. But in our book, we actually have this quiz that you can take called the dating archetypes, and to find out like your own patterns and like what's your strengths and what's holding you back. And we actually looked at the data, and the archetype that we call the energizer, like the one that really believes in this like dating as a numbers game, I'm going to go on as many dates as possible to meet the one, that actually was the smallest population of daters by far. And when we looked at like the actual, the actual questions around like beliefs around dating as a numbers game, we actually found that people did not believe this anymore. Like the shift had happened. And we followed up like on Instagram polls because we're like, we want to understand like what's behind this a little more. And a lot of people were like, I can't keep track of all these people. I can't form a connection with all these people. Like if I'm going on date after date, and people feel that energy. So we see this shift happening now that's moving more from intentional dating to conscious dating, where we slow down, we get clear about what we want, we really try to connect emotionally and not just treat people as disposable and a number. So we're hoping, with the fallout of the last couple years, obviously the resources and the different, patterns that are happening, that we can move into this in the next couple years.
I love all of that you said. And I've just been sitting here and kind of just analysing and thinking about what you've both said there. And it's really interesting, isn't it? I think as human beings, it's in our DNA to connect and to feel the energy and the vibe of someone. And I feel like so much of that has been taken away with the rise of the digital age, with social media and everything. And we know that loneliness is increasing, anxiety is increasing. And I do believe, because it's in our DNA, we are swinging back in all ways, not just with dating, but we were saying this with social media. I do think to a degree, I can see social media. It's now, influencers and everything like that. It's not as big as it was. People do want that one-to-one in-person connection more than they ever have. Because I think we've been pulled away from it so much that we don't feel like real humans anymore. And so there's real craving to be in connection with people again, because we can't deny that part of our humanness.
So really well said. And I think that goes into why you quit drinking, Claire. I think that's why I quit alcohol as well, because I wanted to get back to the essence of who I was. And I didn't know who I was anymore because I had all these distractions that were defining me without my control. And I think by removing alcohol, and alcohol can be symbolic for so many things, the social scripts, the social media, other people's opinions of us. When you strip all that, okay, who is the essence of who I am as Yue? And I want to connect with someone else's pure essence too. I don't want the representation of them from social media or their dating app.
That's so beautifully put. Because you're right, there is so much distraction, and there's so much to pull us away from who we really are and who everyone else is. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah,
going nice and deep there.
I want to ask, because our audience is midlife, and I know we talked about this the other night, didn't we? A lot of midlife relationships break down, so that means people are thrown back into the dating world, and they might not have been in it for 20 years or something. What advice would you give to someone that's suddenly in this position? Like, because we've talked about things like, you mentioned there, like your self-identity has changed. Like when you've been in a relationship a long time, you've made compromises, you might not know who you are. Then you're suddenly faced with this bewildering array of apps. Yeah, what advice would you give to someone who finds themselves thrust back into this world?
So we see this happen a lot. We have a lot of people that are like, okay, I'm out of a divorce or I haven't been dating for years. How do I get good at dating? And our answer is always like, you don't need to be good at dating. That's actually not the skill that you need to build. You need to connect to other humans and use dating as a mechanism to do that. So maybe you're actually at an advantage if you're not wondering, all the different like ways to trick the algorithm or like all the stuff that actually doesn't really move the needle in the long run. So like, I mean, like I said up top, I am so pro technology. Like I would never have met my husband that way. But I also learned, I was a former app designer, so I know the ways that these apps are built to keep you on the hook. Like that's the point of them. So you have to figure out ways that you can use the technology there, but not like fall for the mechanisms that are keeping you stuck. So like an example, for instance, like you don't need to have your notifications on when you are dating because that means that you're pulled in all the time by the dating app. So if you're someone that is new and you're trying to figure out what opening line to use, you don't need to think about it that strategically. We just say, go on, don't overwhelm yourself. Maybe start with one app so it's not completely like chaotic. And, maybe find a place that you can go to repeatedly, like somewhere that you can build a community. So you can start small. Maybe it's one thing in person, one thing digital. Again, does not have to overtake your life. I think sometimes people to think like, okay, now I'm dating. I need to be like on all the apps. I need to go on dates, like 10 dates a week and all this stuff. You don't need to do that. I was actually talking to a close friend of mine who's like going through a divorce. And I'm like, are you going to be going back on the apps? And she was like, I'm very overwhelmed by it, to be honest. And I don't think I'm going to. I'm like, what if your goal is simply to meet another human being? Like, that's all. Like you said yourself, you're not ready to be in a full-blown relationship anyways. Like, let's make the goal so small that, because she was worried about like rejection and like how that would affect her self-esteem. But it's like, if I'm literally looking for someone to get a drink with on Wednesday, like that's all it is. And if I never see them again, cool, no big deal.
I love what you said there. It's a really great idea. Actually going onto the app, just keeping it really simple, one app, but also going and doing something in person as well. So that it's not all your eggs in one basket.
Yes.
You feel like you're really holding on too tight to something. Because when we obsess and hold on too tight to something, it's going to go wrong. So actually just spreading that net a little bit wider and just connecting with people for the sake of connecting, because you just want to get to know new people. I love that. Really nice.
I was going to ask, at midlife, do we need to manage or reconfigure our expectations in dating in some way?
Oh, UA.
I was like,
What do you
okay.
think about that?
So much to say about that. Well, first of all, anybody dating in midlife or coming out of a relationship or really dating for the first time, celebrate the fact that you've escaped all of the societal scripts from the first half of your life. There is absolutely no expectations for someone in midlife and beyond, which is a nice thing, right? Like you can do whatever you want now. So let's celebrate that. Second is, I would say, make love your religion. And I say this because you have to believe in love. You have to believe in your capacity for love. And you have to believe there are other people who are willing and able to love you equally as hard. Where people do fall into a trap is that they think, oh, now I have to adapt to the new way of dating. I have to try these lines on dating apps. I have to mold myself in a certain way because I've been out of the dating game for so long. Don't do that. Go with your religion, which is love. I saw this with my neighbor, wonderful man, divorced at 54 from a 16-year marriage. And his first month of dating was lovely because he didn't know what he was supposed to do. He just went with his gut feeling, went with his heart. He was meeting all kinds of great people. He was having the best time. Second month, people got in his ear. you should try this, or you should get on this app. There's better people on this app, or you should say this. And he became so confused and frustrated, he got off the apps. That's what happens if you don't believe in the religion of love. So I would say just go with your gut feeling, go with your heart. Don't go with all that noise, what other people think you should be doing.
Yeah, love that. Love that. That's great advice.
Julie, you look like you might want to add something there. I'd love to hear what you think.
In midlife, you have a lot of relationship experience, whether that's with a former partner or with children or parents or siblings or friends. It doesn't need to be romantic necessarily. We think that if you can bring that into dating, that is your greatest asset. We think, I guess the example that you gave with her neighbor, it's like when you're trying to like date in this performative way, like, oh, I shouldn't, text this soon, or I, should wait X amount of days. It's so exhausting. It's so
Seriously.
exhausting. And you're not your authentic self at the end of the day. You're not. Yeah. And I think if you can lead with, I'm just going to treat this person like I would a new friend, it reduces the pressure. It makes you come off a lot more naturally. And, when you think about it, like your best friends, you weren't instantly best friends with. It took time to grow that and develop that bond. And I think in dating, we like hold dating to like this whole other like paradigm that's like not how we do any other relationship in life. And if we could just bring our relationship skills and other parts to dating, I think we would just be a lot more happy and successful.
Yeah, amen. I agree. Now I've got a question for both of you. You can go first if you want to, but what if you were to give James and I one mistake or myth that a woman makes when it comes to dating, particularly at midlife, that you've seen, and one of the things that a man, are they different? Do they make the same mistakes, or are there things that you see a common mistake or a myth or something that a man makes and then that a woman makes? I'd love you to start us off with that, and then we'll go to you, Julie.
The myth for a woman is it's too late,
right?
Or missed out.
Yeah.
Or the one that got away. It's a lot of that like in the past. And why that's a myth is because studies show that if you actually enter into a relationship in midlife and beyond, you've avoided your first divorce. So yes. Yeah. So we can prove scientifically that you have a better picker when you are in midlife, because you know yourself better, and that the relationships you build are much deeper and stronger. So there's the debunking that myth.
I love that. And for men?
For men, I don't see the same myth. I don't see many guys being like, I missed out. But I do see a lot of men, at least in my circle, that go, oh, I need to reclaim something from my youth. There's a chip on my shoulder from something in my past, and I need to reclaim that. Maybe it is like, I want to be that cool guy, or I want to be the life of the party that I never was before. There's something with identity in men in midlife that really scrambles their brain. And it's a myth, because I do find men to be a lot more distinguished as they age and stronger in their identity. But I do see a lot of men having a pause and questioning, is this who I'm supposed to be?
Love that.
That is really insightful.
Very, very insightful.
So true.
Yeah, it's very much in our work, actually.
You're like, we resonate.
Really resonate. Julie, I'm sorry to put you on the second.
Yeah. No, it's fine.
You have.
I'm thinking of like more of a universal for both, but it shows up in different ways, I think.
Right.
And I think it's this thing of like being adaptable in midlife, because a lot of us get very set in our ways, especially as more and more time goes on. I think the beauty of midlife is that you know yourself better and all of that, but also at the same time, you're like, I don't want to go out and do this like activity because I don't think I'm going to have fun. But maybe you would have fun and maybe you would meet someone. So I think some of like the curiosity is gone and all of that. And then also, I think from maybe like a men's perspective, I'm just thinking of like, the way that men were socialized for so long was not putting emotions first and being emotionally available. But that is kind of what people are looking for in the modern partner. So it does take adaptation and work and baby steps. It doesn't need to be like overnight that all of a sudden you're a different person, but I think being open to that next wave, and I think this absolutely shows up in women too. It's not just a men only thing, but especially like women, like your identity shifts. Maybe you were married, now you're not, or now you're dating as a mom and that wasn't how you were before. And I think just understanding that like it's always a constant like flux, like life is always in flux and like things are always going to adapt, and being adaptable is probably the biggest skill set you can bring in middle life.
Yeah,
Love that.
Both of you got such amazing advice. I know this is going to be in your book as well, so like make sure you pick up the book. I'm going to grab it. I'm not even single.
Oh, really?
I mean, you never stop dating your partner.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't.
You can never get too much understanding.
That's true.
I just love the advice that you ladies give. I really do.
Really brilliant. Really grounded and down to earth.
It is actually. But I actually want to tell the story before we go on to probably one of our questions. So James and I knew each other before we got together.
I'm not even sure which story you're
I know.
Surprise.
Just tell Yue and Julie about the dating experience you had on the island of Ibiza, which is where we're at right now, which is very, very small. And James lived on one side of the island and you were on a dating app. And apparently one lady said she wanted to meet you on the other side of the island. And talking about setting your ways, what did you think of that?
I thought it's more of a general point. So obviously, when my relationship ended, it was devastating and all the rest of it. I had to go through my grief and all. But when I was ready to go back into the world, it was like, oh, this is quite exciting. And there's all these new apps. Like, this is a new way to meet people. And I really threw myself into it, let's say. Actually, reflecting on what you were talking, what I noticed was like I didn't like the experience. I think perhaps because I was habituated to meeting. I'm thinking of everyone that I met. All of them, I think, without exception, was in a real life situation. If you're a friend of a friend, someone I knew, or out, I just met someone somewhere on the app. I just found it a real faff, like someone message you, then you're like, well, what am I actually saying to this person that I don't even know? And they're living on a small island. Someone would say, oh yeah, come meet me in this bar, and they'd be like, that's a 30-minute drive away.
30 minutes. So talk about setting your ways. He couldn't even be bothered to go 30 minutes.
I mean,
we see this a lot, actually.
We see that a lot.
Common.
Really? Just can't be bothered.
Well, I think people get. I got app fatigue. I was just kind of like, well, I'm just having these pointless conversations with people that I'm actually probably never going to meet up with.
But I think that's why Julie's advice is so good. Is like if you are new to it and you come out of a 16-year relationship, and you'd never been on them before. And they were fairly new back then still, weren't they? Don't overload yourself. I reckon you were probably like on all of them and trying to... starting small, really, isn't it?
Ironically, in the end, all I had to do was sit back, wait for an attractive lady to come on holiday, and then she begged me. History was made.
Oh dear, I think so. I know that story is wildly different to reality.
That's hilarious. We have a shirt in our merch store that says, I don't chase, I lightly jog. But I think if we were to make this shirt for midlife, it should be, I don't chase, I lie down. Yeah. Or I don't chase, I just sit and wait.
Love that. I love that.
So true.
You know what's funny though is your 30-minute drive story is actually like I don't think you should have driven 30 minutes for someone that you have never talked to, because this is what happens a lot. is that people, burn out a lot if they're just like, going all different directions for someone they have no connection to that most likely, let's be honest, most likely will not go to a second date. So it's actually quite unfortunate that during the pandemic, people were screening a lot more, right? Like you were having video calls and phone calls before you met up with someone because it was a little more life and death to actually meet up with someone at that time. And we actually think it's unfortunate that that has gone away. And we actually encourage people to do more screening. And the reality, like you were talking about, James, is like doing all this like back and forth messaging. It's just like there's a point that you're like, what am I doing? This is a waste of time. If you can get on a phone call with someone, I know the phone, archaic, or a video call, it does not need to be instant chemistry, but you can just see if you can vibe. Like, can you have a 10-minute conversation that doesn't feel like you're pulling teeth? If so, you might actually be excited to meet up with this person. And I think like adding a little more of that in, and it makes it feel like steps are being taken, that you're just not in this like endless chat loop that goes nowhere. But then also you can also filter people out. Like I remember getting on video calls and I'm like, I can't even like talk to this person for like 2 minutes. Like, how am I going to go on a date with them? I'm so glad I did this. It did not waste my time.
It's a really important point that you've just triggered in me. Is actually, I reckon there's quite a lot of burnout, dating burnout. Like the expectations that you have on it is one thing, but actually going around getting dressed up,
yes, so much burnout.
Yes.
And then the disappointment. It's the expectation, the traveling. I've got to fit that one in, that one in, that one in, that one. And then the constant disappointment. That's, just burnout, dating burnout.
That's why
we
always say like less dates is not a bad thing, especially if you're taking some of these steps. The reality is this is another place that people get so tripped up on is profiles tell you nothing at the most part. Especially women looking for hetero men. How many guys are out there with their friends taking like photos for their profile? None. So we always hear like guys have the worst pictures. Like, of course they do, unless they went and did like a photo shoot, which people are like, oh, they're trying too hard. So it's like they can't win at that regard. And like, if I looked at so I met my husband on Hinge. I met another boyfriend on Hinge too prior to that. Both of their profiles, they were okay. Like they were fine. I wouldn't say they were like, I was like in love by looking at the profile, but that's okay because that's reality. That's all you can actually expect from it. And we say like, go for good enough. And that's not settling. It's just understanding the limitations of the apps and then filter through the conversation. Who can you actually like banter with for 5 minutes? Like that person is way more interesting, especially if you have like a baseline attraction. If you have no attraction, obviously don't swipe on them. But that
really good advice.
Really great advice.
And I would love to ask you actually on this kind of advice thing. If someone was listening to this, right? So someone is listening to this podcast and they're like, "Oh my goodness, I've just found myself single, or I'm just fatigued from it all." What would your one piece of advice, Yue? What would your one piece of advice to anyone listening to this around? Doesn't even need to be dating apps, but just dating in general. What would you, if you were sitting with your girlfriend or a male friend, what would the piece of advice be that you'd give them if they were just in this space, the dating space?
Go with me with my grocery shopping example again, because I think, again, it's so parallel. Overconsumption is what leads to fad diets. This is what we see with dating too. People overconsume dating and then they delete the apps and then they swear off dating for the next 6 months. And then they come back and dating. So they've deprived themselves of these connections in order to reset their nervous system. But why do you do that? Because you overconsumed in the first place. So what is the new way of consuming food? Is mindful eating. It is everything in moderation. Let's apply the same principle to dating. Integrate dating into your life in moderation, that it's not disruptive and it's also not making you give up on your hobbies, your friends, your other connections. It is integrated. That's one. Two is let's be more mindful of the connections we're making. With every bite, Are you thinking about what does this taste like? With every connection, when you're sitting there with your date, are you there? Are you actually present? Whereas we've seen with a lot of daters, they're thinking about, is this going to lead to another date? What should I say next? Who should I be swiping on next? It's the next. Can we just be present to avoid these fad diets of eliminating food, depriving ourselves of nutrients? It's the same thing. Why would you want to deprive yourself of human connection just to reset yourself? Don't do that.
Love that.
That is genius advice. I love that. It's a mic drop moment. Julie, what would you say?
I mean, to add to that first, it really is just planning dating around your life, not your life around dating. Like, that is the shift. And, you know, one of the things that I did the last time I was dating before I met my now husband was that I, you know, only went on dates like once a week and only really used the apps once a week. So every week, like Sunday, I would use as like the day that I would like go on apps and match and have convos, because it was the most, you know, busy. It was the busiest day for apps. And also I didn't have anything else going on a Sunday evening. So it was not compromising another part of life. I was also very like, I did not set dates on Friday nights. Like that day was reserved for friends to go out because I wanted to guarantee connection every week. I did not want to have like a date on Friday, a date on Saturday, and then them not go well and feel like connection deprived, similar to what Yue was saying. So it was like, this might sound too rigid for some, but you find what works for you. It was like Wednesday was the day that I would either go on a date, or if I didn't have a date, then I would like go out to a place where maybe I could meet people or have a video call date or whatever it was. And then Sunday was the time that I was like talking to new people. And by slowing down, it helped actually like take a look at the connections in front of you, because what's the point in gathering all these different people for them to just like churn over? It's just a waste of everyone's time.
Yeah.
So good. Honestly.
Wow. So much wisdom and great information. We've
Massively.
talked for hours.
Really?
Yes.
And I'm sure people will want to know more. Where can people find out more about you, contact you?
Our website, datablepodcast.com. You can find everything. We're on social media, Instagram at Datable Podcast, and the other platforms too. But we also just rolled out an AI-enabled app. So it's a coaching app where Julie and I trained the AI. So you get like 24/7 sort of advice, but every day you get activities and challenges and prompts to help you reach your dating North Star. So you can find that app at studio.com/datable.
Oh, wow.
And of course.
Yeah.
It's so cool.
And you had time to get married this year as well. You ladies are absolutely amazing. And I'm like really want to encourage you to follow them both on their socials, but also grab the book. And what we're going to do, we'll put all the links in the show notes. But I'm sure we'll have you back at some point to ask you all the questions we haven't got through. But yeah, thank you so much for both of you being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us. This was great.
Take care. Bye.
Yeah.
You've been listening to the Midlife Mentors with Claire and James Davis.
We'd love to hear from you. So drop us a line at info@themidlifementors.com with any questions or topic suggestions.
And make sure you join us on our Facebook page and YouTube channel. You can find us under the Midlife Mentors.
Yeah. What? Yeah. Yeah.
Thanks so much for listening to this episode. And don't forget to take the Midlife Reset Audit now to receive personalised insights into what's holding you back from living your healthiest, happiest midlife. So go ahead and take the audit now at themidlifementors.com/audit.